Hello everyone, and welcome to Halloween here at Anti-Life Reviews with your favorite demon himself, the Tony Makaya. And as we have been for the past 3 weeks, we are going to be looking at Boingo Comics' Bart Simpsons Treehouse of Horror. Thus far, we finished 15 issues, and today we finished the final 5 that I'm going to look at with issues 16 through 20. Now, there are more, but I'm at my wit's end with these 20, so I also wanted to save some comment, so I might revisit these. Also, on Halloween, I'm going to be ranking all of the stories from all 20 issues from worst to best, so please check that out. Now, go ahead, hit subscribe. I'll wait. Now that you've done that, let's get to the comics. Issue 16. Story number 1, Unleash the Glaven by Evan Dorkin, who is famous for Milk and Cheese. The full name is I Screwed Up Big Time and Unleashed the Glaven on an Unsuspecting World. Professor Frink has a machine that doesn't work right. Shocker there, and it releases the Glaven, a kaiju monster that absolutely violently kills every single person in Springfield, sans Bart and Frink himself. Mr. Burns attempts to release his mutants, which are just Family Guy characters mutated for some reason. Eventually the Glaven's mother comes to pick up her child, but Frink has accidentally summoned the Flavin, another kaiju. This was alright. I think the violence goes a little bit too far here. I was praising the violence for being morbid and disturbing previously, but it all had an air of ridiculousness in the context. Here it felt unnecessary, flagrant. Seeing Homer without an eye dying on the floor and Barney's head getting crushed to death was a little over the top, a little much. I like Evan, but it feels like a swing and a miss here. It's a little too nihilistic for my taste, though the art, despite it being a lot, was good. Real nice, heavy, thick lines. Story 2, The Cough Diddly Often by Kelvin Mao, who was famous for Seven Sons. Todd dies from Flanders doing an unnecessary exorcism, which has happened in real life. Flanders then wants to kill Homer as he blames him. Homer runs over Flanders, then gets stuck in an automatic coffin and is buried alive. Okay, another unfunny, overly morbid story. Is that the theme for this issue? This was kind of garbage. It was kind of mean-spirited on all fronts. I like when these things are violent and satirical, but I'd like some actual humor with them too. Story number 3, Telltale Bart by Peter Cooper, famous for Spy vs. Spy. This story involves a crow, Homer being radioactive, and Usher, the musician. I don't have much else to say about this. I do like the art, though. I guess that's a small enjoyment. Story number 4, Homer Goes to Hell by Lemmy from Motorhead. Homer goes to hell, where Lemmy and Motorhead are, but he ends up giving Lemmy Bart's soul. The end. Whatever, I like Lemmy, but come on, this was just as bad as issue 10 with Alice Cooper and Gene Simmons and whatever else. Ridiculous. Issue 17. Story number 1, Nosferatu, A Symphony of Horror by Xander Cruz, who did Kaiju Max and Gene Ha from Top 10. A really well-done retelling of Nosferatu with The Simpsons, obviously with Mr. Burns as Count Orlok. It used the panel layout to ape the silent movie format incredibly well. This was paced excellently, the art was good, and it's a classic. Yeah, well done. Xander has never let me down, and do yourself a chance and read Kaiju Max. Story number 2, Marge of the Dead, from Jane Weedland from the Go-Go's. Thanks to a knock on the head, Marge goes crazy and eventually eats her family's brains. This was kind of set up for this. That was just like bad jokes and pandering, Star Wars references, MySpace references, lots of Marge doing nothing. Pretty poorly done, I gotta say, and the art and colors were really mediocre. Ouch. Story number 3, Harvest of Fear from Jim Woodring, who created Frank, a recurring anthropomorphic character. We get an EC Comics series of stories here, like we've gotten before. Number 1, Quilty as Sins. Johnny is a psychopath, but his family are quilted people who kill him and turn him quilted. Okay. Number 2, a boy finds a weird guy, bought all of the comics in town, but the last page is missing. So Bart goes to find the real reason for this. We then get a Twilight Zone, the movie scene here, where the guy Bart found turns into a monster and kills Bart. This was just as bad as the last time they tried to do a series on EC Comics related stories. But the art in this one is a little better, a little more disturbing. The quality of writing did not improve. Yeah, not good at all. Issue 18. Story number 1, Eerie Beery by Shane Horton, who did Big City Greens. Horton, I don't know. The first part is Straight Evil Dead 1, with the Simpsons going to a cabin, and everyone but Homer turns evil. We even get a toned-down version of the tree attack and a pencil in the foot. Second part is Cabin in the Woods, where Homer figures out that Mr. Burns, Mayor Quimbley, and the like are using these sorts of things for a rich people's sport to bet on. So Homer murders them all with a chainsaw. Art was nice and dark, had some decent shading. I liked it, and while at first I thought this was going to be a straight parody, they swerved me twice. First by doing the cabin in the woods thing, which is good, then by having Homer just kill all the bad guys. Excellent ending to this entertaining story. Yeah, I'd like to see more like this. Story 2, Marge Marries Baby by Jerry Duggan from Deadpool. This is pretty much a straight retelling of Rosemary's Baby with Marge. Obviously, Maggie is the baby at the end. I think the art was really well done. It's this sepia tone, sort of sketchy looking art that really works well with the tone of the story and of the film. Though I don't have a ton more to say about it. Another movie parody. It's fairly direct, well done, but it feels like we've seen this before. Story number 3, One Bart and Stormy Night by Chris Yamber, who's a Simpsons writer. We get our first Bartman story, and they really dig deep into the Batman parody, face down some of his greatest nemesis. Drunkzilla, Barney is Killer Croc, Mr. Squishy, which is Apu as Mr. Freeze, Killer Delight, Mrs. Krabappel as Catwoman, and the Giggler, Lisa is the Joker. It ends up being a dream, but his family are dressed like some of the villains, so Bart freaks out. I like this. Not only was the first time we see Bartman in any of these, which seems like such a waste, but it was a fun romp through Batman's and Bartman's rogues gallery. It wasn't much more than that, but it was fun to see some of the ideas they came up with, as well as the art being genuinely nice and Batman-esque. A nice break from the movie parodies. Story number 4, The Bride by Jim Valentino, who did Guardians of the Galaxy. Listen, I'm sorry, I can't review this one. This is one of the ugliest fucking stories I've ever had to look at. The characters are wildly off-model, they look terrible, and to be frank, the story is a bore. I refuse to accept this level of garbage into my reviews. Really, really shitty. Issue 19. Story number 1, Monster Mashup by Doug Moench, who helped create Moon Knight. Homer ends up at a haunted house as it advertised free beer and donuts. We find various Simpsons characters in standard horror roles. Patty and Selma are witches, Apu is a werewolf, Krusty is a mummy, and Pinhead. Some various zombies, Marge is a poltergeist, and it turns out Kay and Kodos were testing Homer again. I say again because this was the exact plot of a much, much better Homer Erectus from issue 7. I don't know if anyone intended for this to be a sequel, but I somehow doubt it. It feels like they thought this was an original sort of thing, but it wasn't, and it also was not very good story-wise. That being said, Mike Calazia's art is excellent here. Story 2, Alienated by Ian Boothby, who's a Simpsons comic writer. Simpson kids eat some things that make them turn into the former Rigelians, like Kang and Kodos. Kang and Kodos show up, but they eat some things that make them turn human, so they flee. Turns out this was all Krusty's doing, as his race of aliens is invading. So it's kind of an interesting idea. I liked the few twists we had with Kang and Kodos. Then having Krusty be an alien, since the thing that turned the aliens back human were Krusty Burgers. Yeah, more clever than I expected, and with good enough art to get through it as well. This was alright. Number 3, Cthulhu Gesundheit by Len Wein, co-creator of Wolverine. Bart gets a hold of the Necronomicon, and we all know what that means. He reads from it, and well, good old Cthulhu begins to awaken, turns the town to his whims. Bart wakes up thinking it was all a dream, but finds his family and the world change into suckle-mouthed demons, and they are all eating Millhouse. First off, the art was good. It was creepy. Everyone's eyes had this unusual quality, but their bodies were really on point. It made for a slightly disturbing read, fit with the Lovecraft vibe. We have not gotten enough Lovecraft over these 19 issues. Sir, there were plenty of hints, etc., since he's one of the fathers of horror, but it's rare we get a story like this, and it worked perfectly. It made sense. It was tense. Had a fun ending where we get a dead Millhouse, which I always support. More Lovecraft just in general, please. Issue 20, last issue of the week and the month. Story number 1. This whole issue is zombie-centric, and I'm not looking forward to it. Zombie NATO by Jay Torres, who worked on Teen Titans Go. There are zombies in a tornado, but then the tornado lands, and now there are still zombies. I thought we were going to get something a little more clever with the zombie tornado idea, like having it mow down everyone in its path. People think it's just a regular tornado, but no, they didn't do that. Homer's really one of note who gets caught up in it. Okay. Story number 2, The Walking Ned by Max Davidson. He's a Simpsons comic writer. This is a tedious Walking Dead take, and I say this, but it really reads more like that slog of a comic than it does anything resembling trying to be funny or clever. The best part of this is we get to see a zombie Frank Grimes, but beyond that, it's tiring. Ned gets some momentarily sweet moments, but it really amounts to nothing. I don't like The Walking Dead. I don't like this. Story number 3, Dusk of the No-Brainers by Jesse Lee McCann, who's a Cartoon Network comics writer. A well-done Dawn of the Dead parody where the students of Springfield Elementary are stuck inside the mall. We get some fun stuff about them adapting to the new world, food, clothes. Skinner tries to maintain some sense of order. He even gives Ralph a bath, who asks him if he is his new daddy. Skinner slips up at night when his mother appears, who's a zombie, comes to call him. But the kids find out Orange Julius has killed the zombie, so Bart, Lisa, and the bullies head off into the dusk to fight the new fight. A diamond in the rough here, lots of fun. Ralph having to sleep in a dog crate in the pet store was funny. Everyone had little moments, including the bullies. I like the resolution enough. Yeah, just fine. Are Orange Julius is still a thing? Does anybody know? Let me know. And story number 4, last story of the month. Power Plants vs. Zombies by Ian Boothby, who I mentioned is a Simpsons comics writer. Thanks to Homer, there are zombies, so he uses radioactive material to make plant-based monstrosities to fight them. I don't know, I liked the first game. I can't with this anymore. This is so lazy, it's not even funny. Yeah. Let's talk about these last 5 issues. 16. This was fucking terrible. Like, this was up there with one of the worst issues. Issue 10. Except that one at least had an excuse for it being an extended commercial for some rich assholes to plant their flag in. This issue also did that, but it was unfunny, mean-spirited, self-indulgent bullshit. It's one thing to make fun of religion, it's another to insult the nature of belief for no reason. It's funny to make fun of the violence of American media. It's eye-rolling to make sure the violence for well-known and loved characters is offensive so you can be edgy. It just felt like edgelord, try-hard nonsense that I would have liked in 10th grade. What a waste, especially Evan Dorkin, who I know gets satire. Maybe he was having a bad day. Number 17 stands Xander Cannon being awesome, another stinker of an issue, real bullshit stuff here. Long-winded, over-the-hill rocker telling a story full of bad jokes and just a sloppy rehash of a story that didn't work the first time. Man, I hope the last 3 at least have something I can hang my hat on, because fuck me, this is depressing to see the dip in quality this low. Like, it's borderline inexcusable. I don't know what to make of all of it, and I really don't want to. Moving on to 18. This was better than the last 2. That's not saying much. While it had some enjoyable stories, mostly the Bartman and Evil Dead ones, movie adaptations are getting a little tired because they aren't doing enough to be original with them. It's just, here are the Simpsons in X movie. And, like, it's not very entertaining to go through these at this point. Beyond that, we had an inexcusably bad-looking story in the final one. I don't know how that got past an editor. Nonetheless, several editors to get published. It's an embarrassment. Sorry for my foible there. I choked on my own anger. Number 19, another step in the right direction that kind of started off poo, but got better as the issue went on. I felt like I was getting a bit discouraged by these issues, as I had said, so I'm glad I'm getting some actual things I'm genuinely enjoying. I thought maybe some of the bitterness was because I was reading these back to back, but I think genuinely we just were spoon-fed some legitimate shit, and I shouldn't excuse that. And on to 20, a horrible ending to my 20 issues. It's really awful. I'm so sick and tired of zombies, and I have been for 20 years. I live in Pittsburgh, and it's zombies every goddamn year, and I can't stand it. I can't. The Dawn of the Dead was fairly serviceable. The Dawn of the Dead's parody, I mean. The rest of it was so boring, it really took me forever to slog through this piece of shit. I'm so disappointed in the resolution of this. But, well, kind of came to the opposite ending to my Treehouse of Horror episode reviews, where the middle section was shit, but it really picked up for me during the last few. A number of those last few episodes had great stories, and man, they fell off here hard. There was some good stuff, I guess, but really in a sea of absolute garbage. This was objectively the worst week out of it that I've covered in this section, and it took me the longest to do because I was getting so burnt out by this I had to keep stopping. Really disappointing. But we aren't done, though, folks. It's October 31st. I'm going to rank from best to worst, worst to best, every single one of these stories, as well as the Treehouse of Horror episode stories. They will be separate videos, so please come back, watch me, listen to me, however you take me in, and I hope you have an amazingly spooky Halloween. And please, as I've said before, give out full-size candy bars, you pieces of shit. Well, thank you, each and every one of you, for coming here, listening to me talk about The Simpsons. I really sincerely enjoyed doing it, and I hope you got some kind of kick out of it. Please like and subscribe if you did. It would mean the world to me. Put my heart into these videos, and they take me a while to do. I know the quality might not seem it, but I'm working on that. Don't forget to add me on the grams under Demon Peaks for daily Twin Peaks memes. Head over to my Patreon where you can support me for as little as $1, and be back next week, where all month we're going to be looking at jail movies, with the first one being a timeless classic, Cool Hand Luke. This has been the Ethan Micaiah, Master of Minds and of Men. Thank you again, and goodbye.